You know, when you read the book of Genesis, you eventually run into these just staggering numbers. Adam living to 930 years old, Noah to 950. These aren't just big numbers. They're an ancient puzzle that seems to completely defy everything we understand about human life. So what's going on here? Let's dive in and see if we can unravel this mystery together.
Just to put this into perspective, let's start with this number, 969. That was the recorded age of Methuselah, the longest living person in the entire Bible. I mean, that's a lifespan so incredibly long, it feels more like mythology than history, right?
And that's the big question we're tackling here. How could anyone possibly live that long? Were they living in a different kind of world? Did they have a totally different biology? Or are we maybe reading the whole story wrong? It's time to start digging for some clues. All right, so where do we even begin? Our first clue takes us right back to the very beginning to understand the world these people were meant to live in. And this first angle, well, it isn't scientific, it's theological. It's about the original purpose and design behind it all. So from this point of view, these crazy long lifespans aren't the strange part. They're actually the original standard. They reflect God's perfect design for us, a life that was supposed to be full and unbroken, in a world that wasn't even touched by death or decay.
And this right here shows you the massive turning point. Before sin enters the picture, life is, well, boundless. But afterward, death becomes a reality. And as the story moves forward, you see the lifespans get shorter and shorter and shorter. So this isn't just presented as a biological shift, it's a spiritual one.
But what if it wasn't just about the theology? Our next clue suggests that the planet itself was a fundamentally different place, a place that offered a kind of protection we can barely even imagine today. Okay, so this leads us to a really fascinating idea called the canopy theory. Some scholars have proposed that way back before the Great Flood, the Earth was literally wrapped in a huge layer of water vapor. And this canopy would have created a completely different global environment. Just try to picture it, a protective bubble shielding the planet from all the cosmic and UV radiation that, speeds up aging and damages our DNA. It would have created a stable, perfect climate all over the world, maybe with higher oxygen levels. Essentially, it was the perfect incubator for a long, healthy life. And according to this theory, that all came crashing down during the flood, leading to the much shorter lifespans we see afterward. So we've looked at the world around them, but what about the world inside them? Our next clue takes us from the environment right into the genetics and biology of these early humans. One idea is that Adam and his earliest descendants had what you might call a pristine genome. Think of it like the original human blueprint, with way fewer genetic bugs and mutations than we all carry around today. Their bodies would have been incredibly good at repairing themselves, their immune system supercharged. But over many, many generations, those little genetic errors started to pile up, kind of like making a copy of a copy of a copy. And that slow decay led to shorter and shorter lives. And you see, this is where things start to click into place. The idea of a perfect genetic code doesn't really contradict the theological view. In a way, it supports it. It suggests that God's original design for us included a biological capacity for an incredibly long life that we've since lost. Okay, so we've looked at the geology, the environment, and biology. But our final set of clues suggests the answer might not be in the physical world at all. What if it's all about how we're supposed to read these ancient stories? Now check this out. When you put Genesis side by side with other ancient texts from that same part of the world, like the Sumerian king list, you see something wild. Those texts list kings who supposedly reigned for tens of thousands of years. All of a sudden, Methuselah is 969 years. Well, it looks almost restrained, doesn't it? This suggests Genesis might be using a familiar storytelling style from that era, this idea of a golden age of long lives, but changing it to make a very different point about regular humans under one God, not some semi-divine kings. Okay, now I want you to look at this number. 365. This was the lifespan of a man named Enoch. And he's a special case. The Bible says he walked with God and then he just vanished. Does that number ring any bells? Of course it does. It's the number of days in a year. And for a lot of scholars, this is a huge piece of evidence that these ages might not be literal, but symbolic. Enoch's 365 years could represent a perfect, complete cycle of life, lived in total harmony with God. And once you open that door, a whole bunch of other interpretations pop up.
Maybe these numbers were never meant to be read as our solar years. Maybe they were counting ages differently, like by lunar months. Or maybe it was all part of a complex numbering system based on Mesopotamian math, where the numbers themselves were telling a deeper theological story.
So, what's the big takeaway here? I think the most important thing to realize is that this probably isn't a puzzle with one single, easy answer. Instead, the real solution seems to appear when we start to weave all these different clues together. The long lives in Genesis can be all of these things at once. It's a powerful theological statement about life as it was meant to be. It could be a distant memory of a pristine early Earth and a more perfect human biology. And it's absolutely a literary tool, using the language of ancient stories to tell a profound truth. It's not one key, but a whole set of them that unlock the mystery. It's a rich tapestry woven from history, science, and faith. And that leaves us with one final big question to think about. Today, in our own age, we have science pushing the boundaries of human life, trying to extend our years with technology and medicine. So, what can we learn from this ancient mystery? It really forces us to ask not just how long we can live, but what it truly means to live a full and meaningful life in the first place.